All right. My name is Jason Bleich, and I'm the conservation specialist for the Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever seed program. Basically, kind of what I do is I work with our state programs and our different initiatives on putting together good seed mixes and putting the best habitat on the ground that we can get. Before this position, for the last 5 years, I was a private lands biologist with the organization. And for those of you guys that don't know, Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever is a nonprofit wildlife organization, and our mission is simply to put habitat on the ground with whatever partners we can, wherever we can. The more habitat, the better. So I'm just going to kind of breeze through our high quality habitat initiatives and some of the resources that our organization has to offer. Typically, we partner with USDA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, state agencies, the Forest Service, the different conservation organizations that put habitat on the ground. But then about 3 years ago, we really found an opportunity to work with different rights-of-way organizations and agencies, and it has spiraled from there, and we've made some awesome partnerships so far. Stephanie already showed these pictures, but a couple of the projects I got to help with when I was a private lands biologist is working with Illinois DOT, Route 45, Route 54. Those were kind of the initial projects that got this whole thing going. And from there, we've got tons of projects all over, Illinois. We're working in Ohio, multiple other states too. Utility partnerships. Ameren was kind of the first one in Illinois that we worked with. Since then, we're now working with Ameren, AEP. We've done projects with ComEd, Exelon, the power plants, and then pipelines, and then most recently been in conversation with solar farm companies. Like I said before, any partner that will work with us, we're willing to work with them to put habitat on the ground. And so I'm going to breeze through this, but some key considerations for this high quality habitat initiative. When it comes to our seed mixes, what do we think about? And we want lots of diversity. We want, 40, 50 species in our mixes. And just because you're adding all those species to a mix doesn't mean that it's going to be more expensive. A lot of times it actually makes it more affordable. We want species that are going to be growing through the entire growing season. So, from this time of year, April, all the way through October, we want different species that are constantly in bloom, constantly providing good habitat, good nutrients for the different pollinator species. And we want lots of different flower sizes, shapes, and structures on these projects. Here is a page out of our Rights-of-Way booklet, which we recently put together, and we put it on all you guys' tables. This, just an example of kind of what we have to offer, transmission line mixes, pipeline mixes, solar farm mixes. But just because we have it categorized under one of those, categories doesn't mean that that's the only place it can fit into. We just kind of, put what we could together to try to help, people that we may not get to talk to in person about this. So like I said before, even just 5 years ago, our seed mixes were 10 to 12 species. And now we've really tried to push the needle to where we're doing 40 to 50 species in our mixes. And we've got herbicide tolerant mixes. That's been one thing that was talked about today. Plateau mixes, milestone mixes, a handful of other herbicides. And like I mentioned, one of our biggest priorities, aside from diversity, is making sure that we're keeping these mixes as affordable as possible. Not trying to break bank accounts by putting habitat on the ground. The more affordable we can do this, the more acres we can put on the ground. And probably our biggest and best asset as an organization is our Farm Bill Biologist program, or our private lands biologists. Here's a couple different pictures of Farm Bill biologists doing projects on the ground, and what they do is they're kind of the one-stop shop. They can go out there and meet with partners and landowners to get a project initiated. They coordinate with contractors. They work on finding, funding sources and matches for projects. And then that last picture is, that's the end goal of what our Farm Bill biologists do. And another nice tool, especially for those of you who may have not worked with Farm Bill Biologists yet, if you go to pheasantsforever.org, this is the site where we call the Find a Biologist page. You can type in the zip code where you have a project, and it'll kick out the closest biologist to that area. So as you can see, I typed in the zip code for here, Washington, D.C., and it kicked out the different biologists, within 500 miles of this area. I just went through about 3 presentations. All right. So one thing that we really tried to touch on in all of our presentations, if I can get back to it, is like what has been mentioned before, these projects are not your typical, fescue or corn or beans or, stuff that you plant and 2 weeks later you're seeing it popping up in rows. These projects take a lot of time. The first summer, all these different species are really putting all their energy into their root systems. And then by year 2, year 3 is when you'll really start to see the results. So the bottom 2 pictures is just kind of a good example of what a project's going to look like in the first year, and then the second year, and 3rd and 4th year it'll continue to look good, especially with management. And one thing that we always try to hit on too, whether it's our Pheasants Forever partnership signs or just any sign with a wildflower or a butterfly on it, promoting these projects and showing the public the work that we're doing is almost as important as the project itself. It really helps get the point across of what we're doing. We're not just letting areas grow up in weeds or just grow up with these projects actually have a reason, have a point to them, and putting those signs out there to show the public what we're doing has really helped, especially in the early years when some of the projects can look a little bit ugly before they get established. And then lastly, if the video will work, this recently came out in the last month. We're doing a lot of projects with Ameren down in Southern Illinois, and this was just a quick blurb that was on the news. One thing that we've also tried to promote along with signage is, getting in touch with your media outlets, your newspapers, your social media. Anytime that we have the opportunity to show people what we're doing and talk about the good conservation work that our partners are doing, we try to make it happen. So hopefully this will work. So that's it, and also just one last thing to mention is I wanted to mention a couple other people in the room. Aaron Keel is our director of seed operations. Aaron Holmes is our Illinois state coordinator, and then Mike Rutter is our Ohio coordinating monarch biologist. And we're all here for questions, and we're here till the end. So come find us, and we'll talk about habitat with you. Thanks.